Alright, welcome back guys. We're going to do a little class on PVC today. The thing I love about PVC is that it's cheap and it's easy. It requires very little experience, requires very little money, no special tools. It's really an awesome way to get into plumbing quickly. From my own personal experience, my first time, I think I was about 12, and I helped my stepdad replumb our entire trailer that we lived in. And at that point, I basically could have plumbed a house as long as somebody told me where to put the pipes and how to put them in. But this is so easy to work with, it's going to blow your mind. But the specific reason I'm doing this video today is I just had a friend who did his first PVC work, and I talked him through a lot of stuff on the phone, and I told him a few things that unfortunately he missed. But what ended up happening to him was he created the most beautiful PVC manifold and did all kinds of work for the irrigation in his garden. He truly did an outstanding job setting all of it up, but he forgot one little thing that I told him, and now his entire system is just leaking at every joint. So I figured I'd make this video so I could just kind of give y'all a 101 primer on how to work PVC. So before I do the actual demo, I'm going to dive into a little bit of science behind what PVC is. PVC is polyvinyl chloride, and it's the poly that matters. The P in PVC, that poly, that is a polymer. And the way a polymer is made is very specific molecules are created, and these molecules are somewhat polar. They have sort of a polar opposite ends, and they like to attach to each other end by end by end, which creates these really long chains. And these long chains, most materials have a lot of different bonds. So when you go to put an adhesive on it, imagine this is your material on a microscopic level. There's all these nice places to bond. And then you take your cement or your adhesive and your other material, and you can bond them together like this. PVC is not like that. Because of this polymer structure where it's really good at bonding to itself, what you end up with is this surface here under a microscope down at the molecular level. This surface does not have hardly anything for anything to bond on. There's just no locations for a bond to be created, and that's what makes plastic so durable and long-lasting, etc. But the problem for us is, how do we glue this to this if none of the glues, none of the adhesives actually want to make a real bond with this? And the answer to that is a primer, number one, and also this is a solvent cement. It's not a glue, it's a solvent cement. So what happens is, I want you to imagine your PVC at a molecular level. You've got all of these different woven strands of polymers together, and there's nowhere for anything to get to. When you put your primer on there, the primer does not break any of the bonds, but the primer gets itself in between all of those strands, and it just kind of loosens it up and softens it. So once you've got your primer on there and you've loosened everything up, you're going to take your solvent cement on there, and it's going to get in between all of those strands that you just loosened up with the primer, and it's actually going to start breaking a lot of those bonds. And now you're going to have all these free bonds. And what it wants to do, as soon as you put the primer and or the cement on there, what it wants to do is find itself and close back down. So the trick here is you need to apply your primer, and then you need to apply your cement immediately, and you need to get the joint together immediately, because what happens, this is not a glue, like I said. What happens is, once you've primed it and then you put your cement on and it breaks those bonds, you are not having glue sticking to these bonds and glue sticking to these bonds and then glue sticking to itself in the middle. What you actually get is these bonds pop up, these bonds pop up, and they come together and actually weld the cement together. This is literally a welding process, the same as if you had two molten pieces of metal or just two of anything that have bonds with the other item, not an adhesive in between the two items. So these two, when we put them together correctly, will become one. And one really important note for you to know as well is, if you're using cold water, if this is for cold water, you can use PVC. If it's for hot water, you need to use CPVC. And when you purchase your primer and your cement, you need to look at them and make sure that they say they are for use on CPVC. CPVC has chlorine added to it. It changes the chemical structure, and that means you do need the correct primer and glue for CPVC, so make sure you read these before you purchase them and use them. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and make a joint for you and show you how quickly and how strongly these joints work. And I have also gone in advance just to show you. Hopefully it works out. I don't know if it's going to work out the way that I'm thinking it will. But as you can see, this is purple because I've already primed this and I've already primed the inside of this. So we're going to do one end of this. We're going to put our primer on and we're going to put our cement on and we're going to slap it together as fast as we can and we're going to get a good bond. Over here, I've done the primer earlier, just like my buddy did. I've done the primer earlier, and instead of putting the cement on right away, I've let it sit here for a little bit. And what should happen is this cement is not going to perfectly bond this. Now, we may get lucky, and I may not be able to break this bond off, but I'm going to try at the end to remove both of these with equal strength, and there's a good chance this one's going to come off. But if it doesn't come off right away, it is still going to come off because, again, this is not an adhesive, this is not a glue, this is a solvent cement. Actually, real quick, before I dive into this work as well, I want to thank Next Insurance for sponsoring this video. Because they're a sponsor on this channel, that's what makes me able to take the time away from the handyman business, which needs me 24/7. It's the sponsorships from people like Next that allow me to take some time from the business and come in here or on the job and slow down and make videos to help you guys out. There is a link in the description for you to go get a free quote from them. It's a no obligation quote. Just go find out what they cost. They might be right for you. I've insured my business with them for 4 years and even recently upgraded my plan. But I did just want to take a minute to thank Next because I couldn't do these videos without the sponsors. There are no paywalls for you guys, so this has to be financed from somewhere, and you can thank Next Insurance for that financing. Go to the description, click on the link, and get yourself a quote. All right, so here's how we do this. We're going to make sure both of our lids are kind of off and ready. We don't want to be wasting any time once we kick this into action. And all we're going to do is we're going to primer the outside of this, the inside of this, and then we're going to apply the cement, and we're going to get these together as fast as we can, and then we'll go cement the other end. So, if you're ready, I like to get a little bit of the excess off of there. You don't need a whole lot of it. And then you can just go around and around, get your other piece around and around on the inside, and just get that glue out immediately. You don't waste any time at all. You're going to make a mess, and that's fine. We don't mind messes. Messes can be cleaned up. Shove them together. Hold it there for a second, nice and tight. Give it just a minute to go ahead and set in place for you. And that's usually about all it takes right there. And now let's flip this guy around, and we're going to take the one that we have pre-primed earlier, and we're just going to glue it together now. And then we'll see if I can break that seal by hand. So there's the glue on this one. There's the glue on this one. Get them smashed together. Hold them in place for just a second. While I'm holding these in place, I'll also tell y'all, if you're building a bunch of different angles, if you've got a specific size and shape and route that you need this to take, it helps if you start on these ahead of time. Like, for example, let's say I wanted this one pointed up and this one pointed directly up. You're going to want to go make some little marks, just with a permanent marker or whatever you have, but make some little marks on these so that you can line those marks up, because once you put this on, it's going to stick right away. If I tried to take it off right now, I wouldn't be able to. And yeah, I believe this is the one that I did previously, just so I don't get those confused. So this should be our good joint. The other end should be our bad joint. We're going to let this sit for a minute because we do want at least our good joint to set really well. Now, I'll be editing this video to remove a few minutes, but I'm not going to let this sit for more than 5 minutes. This is really a very quick bond that's going to happen here. In fact, it's probably already fully bonded because you have almost no working time with this once you stick it on. So the actual set time for this joint, for anything less than 1.25 inches in diameter, the set time for this is going to be 15 minutes. Right now it's only been maybe 4-5 minutes at the most. I'm going to test this early, but just so you guys know, the set time for this is about 15 minutes, up to 2 hours before you put any water in it with any actual pressure from the inside. But we're going to go ahead and test this now. So all I'm going to do is try to twist on this joint and twist on that joint. This is the joint that sat for a while. This is the joint that I just made, and let's give it a shot. And I cannot do anything to that one. nor can I do anything to that one. So this is the good news, is even this old joint held. However, as I was telling you, if you let it sit for a long time, it's not going to hold. And this joint, even though maybe I can't get it off right now, as it sits out in the sun or as it gets pressure applied to it, water pumping back and forth, this will eventually fail, and this will almost certainly never fail unless it's out in the sun for years and years and years and just gets brittle from UV damage. But this is how you do this, guys, and it's super easy. All you got to do is buy the parts, buy the joints, build up whatever it is that you need to make. As far as, you know, your routing and whatnot, build it all up, get your pieces marked, and just make sure when you put it together that you do that primer, and as soon as you put that primer back in, you just pick up that glue, you get the glue on, shove it together, and you are done. And as you saw, even without 15 minutes, both of these joints are extremely solid. I can't break them. So if y'all have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I love you guys. I hope you're out there killing it, and I'll see you on the next one.